I think the next sort of 4 or 5 games we've got will define our season. Going to Stevenage, Scunthorpe, Sutton and Crawley, and then Doncaster in the FA Cup. I think those 5 games will go a long way to deciding which direction we're going in.
It's a bold statement from Nigel Clough ahead of a very busy month as we refocus on league action. But the only place his side can underline those beliefs is out on the pitch. In the grand scheme of things, Nigel Clough is spot on. We're certainly on the rebound from a woeful run, but week after week, players come back into the fold, and more importantly, the pendulum of results has started to swing back in our favour. Over the last week, pretty much every player available has been involved in wins too. A memorable 1-0 win at Sunderland was followed up with a 10k clinching 6-3 win in essentially a friendly against Newcastle United's under-21s last night, a game in which striker Danny Johnson took a huge injection of confidence by taking home the match ball. Tonight on the Mansfield Matters podcast, we'll talk confidence and how those wins will breathe new life into the camp and discuss the gaffer's statement. Could the next 5 games, 4 in the league and an FA Cup trip to Doncaster in round 2, really shape our season? As always, we want you guys to get involved in the live feed. This is the show for the fans, by the fans. Why? Because Mansfield matters. Mansfield Town have opened the floodgates of late with wins in the FA Cup, a Papa John's Trophy victory as well, a sweet 10k in the bag, and goals, although that was mainly in the Papa John's Trophy. Confidence is running high, and that is what we want to see. Who'd have thought a couple of weeks ago when we were all doom and gloom that we'd be sitting here looking ahead with want, with desire, with anticipation towards the next bunch of fixtures in Sky Bet League 2. This is the Mansfield Matters podcast. Good evening, hello, good morning, good afternoon, depending if you're listening to the audio version of this. My name's Craig Prieston, joining me to discuss all things Mansfield Town. For the first time all season, not only have I got Nathan Edge, not only have I got Clive Parkin, I've also got Cam Felton. Oh my God, we've got a full house. Good evening, wave to your cameras.
Evening.
How are we all? Are we well? I mean, before we delve into that, I'm just going to delve into the vast array of names which we've got popped up on the screen. We've got Clive Parkin, the Sage of Edwinstowe, who doesn't seem to have changed his name for weeks. I'm sure that will change during the show. We've got Greasy Notes from Cam Felton. I don't know whether that's a little bit about his personal life. And we've got Nathan Edge, who's spent hundreds of pounds sorting out an office, who's decided to move to get better broadband, to sit in his living room on his sofa and call himself Quiniesta. What's going off, Nath? Are you well? Are you all right?
I'm buzzing. I'm delighted. I mean, apart from the late start for me, trying to get myself some good Wi-Fi, but that's Quiniesta. I mean, he's been the difference for me. That's why I've popped his name in that, for my title for tonight.
Fantastic. just for an admin point of view, we didn't speak to Nathan before we started because he logged in late, like you just mentioned. Nathan, you just need to tilt your camera a little bit more forward.
I knew that was going to be the case.
That's better. And also
Like
you're using your laptop's microphone, not your microphone. So you're holding that for no reason. There you go. There you go. Took your hands aside. Cam's not using it either. At least you've got the headphones on, Nathan. Well, it's a nice surprise to have all four of us on. That can only mean one thing, though, Clive. We're winning games.
Yep, brought them all out.
Oh, jeez.
I don't know where to start. I mean, let's get some of your guys' comments in. We'll be talking tonight mainly about what Nigel Clough has said in his little interview this week. Stags Chat says, confidence must be running high. 3 out of 3 wins in all competitions. Just what we need to keep it going. And it all started, Nath, at Sunderland on Saturday. We didn't catch up with you on Sunday because you had man flu, in inverted commas, a.k.a. you'd had another bottle of champagne because we'd won another game and you were hungover. What did you make of it?
I did man flu, honest. What a day. I mean, obviously, enough's been said about it. As an away day, I think for the fans, it was perfect, absolutely spot on from start to finish. But I think from the playing side, I think it was a very much all-round team performance, which is exactly what we needed, and we've seen glimpses of it, haven't we? As players have been coming back, and the last few weeks' performances have been getting better, but we've finally sort of had a real good result to back it up now. In addition to Tranmere, and we just hoped that could be the springboard to maybe kicking our season off. And I think the manner we won it, I'm really hopeful that it will be.
And one thing that it does do, Cam, we had a little bit of a danger sort of thought, really, in terms of having the Papa John's Trophy in there, because we knew the players would change, we knew the personnel would change. We were perhaps a little bit worried that it might slip back to the defeat mode, but 6 goals, 3 for Danny Johnson, confidence just kept on coming, didn't it?
Yeah, I think, whilst we were worried that we might slip back into our usual pattern, after 5 minutes, it was like, oh no, Mansfield of old. Yes, we've changed the team, but we've just got no go about us at the moment. But it turned it round, and I can't really fault the team other than maybe just conceding just sloppy goals. But other than that, it's a team I can't imagine that team's played together ever. Even in training, I doubt that team played like more than just like drills as that unit. So you can't complain too much because we've scored 6 goals. We've not lost. It's like you keep saying, it's 10k in the pocket. Do we add that to the transfer budget for January if we are going to do anything? Yeah, probably, just to beef it up a little bit more. But yeah, good run out for the players that needed the minutes. So I think obviously Danny Johnson been on the bench for the last few games, really low on confidence, but looked a lot better, much more clinical, especially for his first and second goals. Obviously the penalty was something he needed to improve on because, terrible attempt last time against Tranmere, but the first goal and the second goal, just a real poacher's instinct, getting that near post run. And then the second one, holding off his man, making the turn, and then firing it into the back of the net. It's absolutely fantastic from him, and that's what we need to see in the league. And hopefully he uses this as confidence and he can turn his season around, because whilst he's found the back of the net a few times, it's not where he'd expect himself to be. He'd want to have a few more by now, you'd have thought.
Yeah, he certainly would. Clive, it was an interesting night to say the least. And whilst we're talking about positives on the pitch, I know you've been sat there, with biting your bottom lip a little bit, just biding your time patiently, because you do have a bit of a rant about last night, don't you? Take it away.
I enjoyed last night. I thought the football was interesting, and we learned a lot about some players we wouldn't normally get to find out about. It was a relaxed evening as far as I was concerned, because there was nothing at stake. I'm only pleased that there's nobody got seriously hurt playing, because we haven't got a squad depth to carry that. But my rant, and I've calmed down a little bit, was why on earth did the stewards push all the fans into the bottom corner of the ground, despite the fact they'd sold tickets for all 5 sections of that. Well, 4, isn't it? A, B, C, and D. I think they sold tickets for.
Correct.
We had tickets in D because we wanted to be near the centre line, and also we got some business to do with Alan, and we were physically prevented from going up there. And then later on, of course, there wasn't room for everybody in the space they'd allocated, so they ended up opening D again anyway. What was it all about? I mean, we've got the remnants of COVID kicking around. What is the sense in cramming everybody together? It would have been perfectly suitable to spread them around along the bottom tier there. It seems to me like it's just bloody mindedness, and certainly nobody seems to be putting the paying customer first.
Yeah.
Rant over.
Nathan adds, totally agree, Clive. I had seats in D, but was pushed back to Block C. Then it ended up going back in Block D. Yeah, it was a little bit of a farce, and it didn't make for a nice start to the evening, really. But I'm going to flip it back on its side. I mean, I personally love Nath sitting up in the upper tier. It's a much better view for me. But occasionally when we have these games, I do like the little trip downstairs because you can hear the players a lot more, especially with a reduced crowd and things like that. More importantly, Nigel Clough, and I was quite impressed last night with the way he handled it. We've given him a little bit of stick on this podcast in previous weeks for his post-match antics and things like that, the way he deals with his players. But every instruction that he got, I felt he got across last night was clear, was concise, and was borderline encouraging, really, in some respects. He was there to try and develop the players, and you could see that he had a real care for trying to develop those players.
Yeah, I mean, like they say, there's a benefit when there's only 805 fans there, which I think also included about 44 scouts or something as well for last night. So I wonder if they're watching our players or theirs, or know who's came off better off anyway. But yeah, you do get to see a little bit more the management team, I guess, up close and personal. It's a bit like we say it, don't we, about pre-season friendlies, and that's a little bit different because that is more experimental. And last night, yes, it's experimental, but you get to see a bit more of the actual sort of the important stuff because these are players that many of them we've already had to call upon so far this season due to injuries and suspensions. So the chances are some of these players are going to feature again going forward. Obviously, Faz and Danny Johnson will, but you other ones who had good games, such as Jason Law, for example. He needs to carry on developing. So if the management team and Clough and others included can use these games to really work on their development, get them ready, then that's great. So from a fan's point of view, to be able to see that, it's a bit more reassuring because we do need to make sure we're ready because I think we probably wasn't prepared for it this time around.
No, isn't it a shame though that it took till game 3 for us to, give them somewhere to develop and get that 10k in the bank? It's almost like when it doesn't matter, it mattered. Annoying. Anyway, let's move back to other comments. I think mine and Nathan's thoughts on that competition. I think we're pretty much the minority of it, though. To be fair. Nick says, I've got a few guys at work keeping an eye out on the Stags results, so it was nice to be able to go in after winning games. Ellen on YouTube evening says, Nathan Bishop, our best keeper in decades. Craig says, I've said it all season and will keep saying it. Give DJ constant service and he will score goals. And William adds, DJ said in his interview after that the penalty was his most important goal. Hands up, complete honesty from me. I've not watched that interview yet. I literally got in about 6:15 tonight. Managed to wolf down some food and set up the podcast. So I've not had a chance to watch it. But from a confidence point of view, that was the key word we were taking away from last night, Cam. It will have done him the world of good. And I think he's absolutely spot on. The penalty was the most important one because it's a mindset thing.
Yeah, it is. Obviously, he's looked low in confidence in front of goal in general, but I suppose that dreadful penalty played on his mind because it was just... It seems to be one thing after another with him this season. It's like he gets a goal, then he just goes missing for ages, and it's just so frustrating as a fan watching it because we know he can do so much better. We've seen it in spells this season, and he did improve in the Tranmere game after missing it, but I suppose it was the confidence still. So it's great that he's found it was his most important goal, and hopefully it does set him in the right mindset to go to Stevenage on Saturday. Whether he'll get his place or not, I don't know. I don't see why Clough would change from Saturday at Sunderland. But if DJ has got the confidence, then he should be standing up to the gaffer and saying, "Look, I want to play. I've scored. Obviously, I scored 3 goals during the week. Give me a chance." Because what's the worst the gaffer could really say? No. Well, you're on the bench again. I'll bring you on it second half or whatever. So he's just got to stand up and be counted. I think that's the most important thing for him now, because it's all right doing it in a competition we're already out of, a complete dead rubber, but he now needs to firstly get his chance in the league, and then he needs to stake his claim why he should stay in the team for the League Two games, because be all the end all is League Two matters. Stuffed Crust Cup doesn't in the whole grand scheme of things.
It's an interesting quandary to have, Clive, because like Cam mentioned there, why would Clough change it from Sunderland? Because obviously we won a game and, we played very, very well. My only feeling would be that we definitely set up to be a little bit more defensive at Sunderland and went 5 across midfield with Oates up top on his own. I think going to Stevenage on Saturday, I think that's where Clough will look to try and bring the likes of Johnson back in to maybe go with a 2 up top.
Unmute me.
You are unmuted. We can hear you.
Doesn't say that on my screen, but I'll believe you.
We can hear you.
What?
Hello?
Hey?
Hello? Anybody there? No,
yes, there. I think Stevenage presents Clough with a different set of opportunities to that of last Saturday. And I'd be very surprised if he doesn't play both strikers alongside each other. I think he's got to have some faith in his back line now, not to worry too much about it. And the midfield starts to pick up a bit of pace in the last couple of games. We've now got to switch to strike mode, and that means having both of them up there.
I'd go 3. Hawkins back up there. Oates and Danny Johnson. Let's go all out.
No. Step too far, Nate. Step too far.
That's being overexciting, that. But I'd be happy with Oates and Danny up there at the minute.
Something you two should be, knowing a lot of is it's all about baby steps at the minute. We're getting there. We're getting there. Moving Hawkins up there. I don't want to get dragged into the whole Hawkins discussion because it seems like Nigel Clough mentions James Perch every week. We mention Ollie Hawkins playing at centre-back every week. So I don't want to delve into it too deep, but he
falls under the category of rigidity.
He's got to stay there. He's definitely got to stay at the back because we've got other players that can play up top, if anything else. Interesting though, last night, Clive, John Joe O'Toole. We're going to a lot of people mentioning James Gale and the keeper situation in the comments. We'll come back to that in a second. But whilst we're talking about potentially moving one up front, the other option you've got, if we did want to shift Hawkins back up there, not that I'm saying I would, is John Joe O'Toole, because he played at Sunderland, had a very good game, also played last night, but in midfield, he's a very interesting utility player to have. He's only on a contract until January. How much Clough plays in between now and then will be interesting to see. But personally, I wouldn't mind giving him a deal until the end of the season.
Well, he's certainly done nothing wrong. He's fit for his age. He's certainly got wisdom. He's got plenty of experience to fall back on. And if it's the category of an ugly player, he's a bit of a thug as well. I quite like that. So I think, what are you giggling at? So I think the suggestion that he stays for the reign of the season is a very simple one. I would do that because we need the player, we need the cover. And I think that the short-term duration of the original deal was partly just to make sure he got to fitness to be able to play, and he seems to have satisfied that. He did nothing wrong at all last night. He was composed, and he also, I think, make a good captain.
Interesting one to have. Certainly is a good utility player to have in there. Question for you, Cam. I'm going to put it to you. From Richard says, I'm not sure how we get Laps and Johnson in the team if Oates is up front. What do you make of that one?
Like you were saying, how do you change the 4-5-1 to suit going probably more attacking at somewhere like Stevenage? I think the only option would be drop Harry Charsley. because I don't think. I know Ollie Clark's been a bit inconsistent, but I just don't feel like dropping him is the right way to go. Because we know that he's a fantastic player. He knows that he's more than capable at League Two, but he's just been a little bit inconsistent. But I don't think just dropping him out of the squad is the way that we're going to fix it, which is the only problem. I don't. For me, that's the only way you could go forward is by dropping Harry Charsley. But Charsley doesn't deserve that. You can't drop Quinn because everyone would absolutely lose their minds at Clough. Like, why on earth have you done that? I think Nathan would be going to hold Bobby ransom or something until he puts Quinn back in the squad.
Clive would be withdrawing his mug.
It's a good problem to have, though, isn't it, for the gaffer? You know,
who did he drop?
He's had half a dozen games where he's had very little choice of who you can pick and play where. Now he's got the headache of picking people.
And the other point as well is, I'm cutting ahead of Cam because I can. The other point that's there as well in that midfield area is Ryan Sturt got 45 minutes last night as well. So he's back in the building. We know that Clough seems to highly rate him as well, Cam.
Yeah, he does. Obviously, he did do a job. A couple of games that he has come off the bench and just really solidified as.
You thought I'm going to miss that, didn't you?
Well, I'll throw another one into the mixture. What do you do with John Joe O'Toole? We spoke about him like being solid, but what do? He can play centre back. He can play central mid. You've got Farron Rawson coming back in the squad. How do you fix that one as well then? Because we've just got issues in the midfield and the defensive. From before it was, we've not got enough players to, we've probably now got too many players.
Quite possibly. Let's have a look at some of the comments coming in as well. William says, I think we should drop Ollie Clark. We've got players who can replace him. Quinn would make a great captain. Craig says, Harry's been a different player the last 2 or 3 games. And Darren says, O'Toole is a very pivotal member of our team. James Gale will be a great striker in time. I'd personally give the armband to O'Toole. He's a real leader. Don't know how Ollie Clark still has the armband. It's an interesting one, I think, Nath, with the whole Clark thing, because if you were to rank our midfielders in terms of how they're performing this season and the job they can do in our current system, you probably wouldn't put Clark in the top 3, and that's no disrespect to him. I think we've just got enough midfielders who can go in there and do a job. But by virtue of the fact he has the armband on, he almost leaps up the list a little bit. So. Yeah. And then it's if you drop your captain, it's we've dropped the captain. There must be something in the dressing room. They mustn't get on it. It's a really hard quandary to.
It's very difficult to drop your captain. It's a bit like when you used to play kids football. If you were the person that had the football, you never got dropped.
Can I also just throw something in? My partner Ellie's just said something. How can Quinn be the captain? He never plays 90 minutes.
Well.
Last couple of games, but usually he only plays about 80.
Can we do something which I've never done on this podcast? Can we send Cam off and get Ellie in, because she speaks more sense than you, and she's probably made more of an impact than you have in the entirety of the series. Now, Nathan, I'm going to throw it over to you.
I mean, what you were saying there about him not being in the top 3, I think probably at the moment he'd probably be about 5th in the list for me. And it's I said this a couple of weeks ago, didn't I? About the problem is basically almost impossible to drop unless he got injured, because he's been given that captaincy. And then there's a dilemma. It's very unusual to take the captaincy off a player in mid-season. So what do you do? It's a tough one, and I think for the moment that's probably keeping him on that pitch, because he's not necessarily earning it performance-wise. So. Going to what Cam said, would you drop him? I'd drop him off a cliff at the minute. I mean, sorry, I'd drop him.
Nathan, you can't say things like that.
Onto the bench at the minute. So.
Jesus Christ!
No, I'm only joking. I just think it might do it might benefit him to maybe just have a bit of time on the bench and then kind of upset him in a sense that make him, when he comes on the pitch from being on the bench, to make him really want to make an impact. And then climb up that cliff.
Breaking news from Mansfield Matters. After 5 years of the podcast, Nathan Edge's comments have made sure that we're cancelled and can't do any podcasts in the future. After saying that he'd throw Captain Ollie Clark off a cliff, said Captain sued Nathan and the Mansfield Matters podcast for basically threatening to kill him.
So views of the owners, views of the individuals. You know?
Yeah. Those are the views of Nathan Edge, who lives at insert address here.
I'm just copying what Oliver said earlier. I can't believe it.
I can't believe it. They were your son's first words. Shocking.
Drop him down off end of a cliff.
All
right.
I'll dig you out of a hole, Nate. William says to you, Cam, isn't Hollyoaks on? There we go. There he's gone. There we go. There he is.
I didn't know it was going to be that easy.
I know. Oh. Cam, your picture went a lot better than when your screen went black. Anyway, moving on. This is what happens when you get all four of us on the show. Let's go back to some sense. Richard's going to rescue us. If O'Toole plays in midfield, he's going to replace Maris. Another tough one. Clive, thoughts on that one?
I don't disagree. I think Maris is a good player on his day. Susceptible to a bit of injury, but I think O'Toole would be a natural slot in if we hadn't got him.
Yes, I think so. I don't think that Maris would be the right player to take out. I think Maris does a lot of our running. If you are looking at O'Toole in midfield, you are looking at that Clark role. You are looking potentially at Charlesley, and Charlesley's better than Clark because of what he offers to the team in terms of getting wide. So,
yeah, I'll say the first goal was just created. Charlesley just being a bit of a nuisance, just keeps pushing, and it worked. And it shows that we did miss him when he was injured. Obviously, his form towards the end of last season was just fantastic. And I think, whilst most people want to write off last season, I'd probably say Harry Charlesley last season was his best spell at the club. Obviously, before, when he came in like January before the lockdown, he just didn't. He weren't bad, but I think Graham Coughlin was definitely the wrong man for him.
Yeah,
he just looks a completely different player on the club, and I think that's the same for a lot of the players. To be fair, I think they just look a little bit different. You think Jordan Bowery, how he turned it around when he came in. Yes, this season he's not really got a look in, but that's because we've seen our weak points, i.e. the strike force. We shipped Jamie Reid off to Stevenage and brought some strikers in, and it's made it difficult for Bowery. But we know he can still do a job. I.e., last night he didn't do that bad of a job up front. But
by the way, he's a guaranteed goal scorer on Saturday, Jamie Reid. We all know that, don't we?
Yeah, and just to reiterate, you can't get points in the prediction league for predicting it, Nate. So don't even think about it. More on that later. Let's go back to last night. Finally, Clive. Let's just wrap things up on that. Then we'll hear from Nigel Clough, and then we'll look ahead to the next couple of games or so and continue on this thought process as well. A few comments before we do that, though. Richard says O'Toole would have been ideal to come on against Exeter when we scored, to play in front of the back four. Well, he was certainly running up and down the touchline as well. He adds, I think O'Toole has the legs to play anywhere at the bottom of the diamond in the midfield. Roger says I wouldn't start Bowery on Saturday as well. And in balance to the conversation we were having earlier, Nath, just to rescue you, Ellen on YouTube says Clark's form will pick up. He's too good to be dropped this season. Keep your comments coming in and have your say on your team. That's what it's all about. We keep talking, Clive, about last night, and we mentioned players getting minutes as well. A couple of housekeeping things. Congratulations to Faz Rawson and his partner, who've successfully seen the arrival of another human into the world. Congratulations to you. Last night, we've not mentioned him yet, though. We also saw Will Forrester for the first time, which means our injury list is ever decreasing. And I want to clear something up as well. A few weeks ago on the podcast, we mentioned that when we were going through the injured players, that Richard Narty arrived injured. I spoke to the analyst last night who took the time to come and see me on his way down to the dressing room at half time. praised us for the podcast and said keep up the good work and everything, but wanted to point out that with his assurance that Narty wasn't injured when he arrived initially on loan from Burnley. He was picked up after his arrival, so he wasn't injured when he arrived. So apologies for any miscommunication on that front, although I think I might have picked it up from what Clough said, but who knows anyway. But it was nice to have that cleared up as well. Also, before we drop into talking about the other players that we saw last night, Clive, we're going to just quickly say a massive good luck and best wishes to Tom, the physio, and Dave Waldy, the other one of the
strength and conditioning coach.
There you go. That's his job title. It slipped off my. I knew there was a reason why I kept you around, Cam. Who are both running 10k a day throughout this month for 30 days, raising money for prostate cancer. We've donated. If you guys want to donate as well, the link is in the description. Give what you can for a fantastic cause. And it's great to see those guys absolutely smashing it. And we've given them a Mansfield Matters mug as well. In fact, Clive drove a van down to the One Call Stadium of the day and unloaded some mugs and gave some to the staff, didn't you, Clive? You had a little mug drop, didn't you?
We did.
Got any left?
We need a stall on match day.
No, I thought it was an opportunity for us to communicate in a different way to one or two people. So the managing director has got one, and he's thanked us for it.
He has indeed. David Sharp, the CEO, yeah.
My favourite member of staff, Diane Sini, she's got one, and she's thanked us for it. The two runners have thanked us for theirs. We gave one to Mez.
He thanked us for it. Yeah, he's thanked us as well, yeah.
And one to Mr. Clough, who was so far had a busy Tuesday. So I think his thanks will arrive later.
He's also not on Twitter, so you know.
I've also got one. I've got one with 2 Bonio biscuits in, which I'm going to drop off at the training ground for Bobby. So we're not mean with our mugs, are we?
No, we're
Going
not.
back to the game last night at Forrester, I think I actually didn't notice him a great deal, which is a bit interesting because he was very competent. You know, he slipped in and he was doing the job, and I think that's all you want from him. And I think it's nice to have him on board now and to be free of injury. One critical thing, and it's me tongue in cheek now, the referee, he must get through some pencils, that bloke. Oh my God, what a pedantic oaf.
You do know that it's, when we refer to the referee, it's a different one each week. You are aware of that, right? It's not the same bloke who just turns up and just be an arsehole for 90 minutes.
Well, the one last night, I hope we don't see him again.
Oh dear.
I get the feeling, despite a 6-3 victory, Clive still left the game very angry yesterday.
Oh, yeah. No, I can compartmentalise my anger.
I feel like we're going to walk out, back of West End, and we're going to see some broken Mansfield Matters mugs on the floor.
Hey, well, we've already had that. I've sent 2 in the post. Royal Mail, by the way, you're an absolute disgrace because I've sent 2 in the post and had to resend another mug because the bloody handles broke. Nothing wrong with the quality of the mugs. Royal Mail just like to smash them up. Obviously, the postman is a spy, right? That's a woeful joke, mate. Woeful joke.
By the way, sorry, just a quick one.
No, go on.
One of our academy teams beat Chesterfield tonight.
Excellent work. Well done. Well done to you all. Briefly back to last night. Will Forrester, as you mentioned, Clive, got some minutes under the belt. James Gale, though, another player who was impressed, and Mr. Clough was impressed with him as well. That's to you, Clive, by the way.
Yeah, I don't want to steal Mr. Clough's thunder, but I was impressed by the lad's physique. I thought he looked a big fella, and he certainly seemed to have energy and athleticism. So, he needs to develop at our level. I'm sure he's got it in him to do so. And credit to the club, they've spotted him and brought him on board.
What did you make of his performance last night, Cam? You were watching on the live stream. What did you make of it?
Solid.
Hang on. Were you watching on the live stream, or were you lying and were you watching Hollyoaks?
I mean, they don't clash, so you're not even funny.
There was an hour-long Coronation Street last night, which caused problems. That's
it. Is Ken Barlow onto his 9th wife now, Cam, or what?
Yeah, Gale, solid.
Gail Platt? He's with Gail Platt?
Somebody referred to Gale as a more agile Matt Reed. So if that's anything to go by, He may develop into be a very good player.
I think he's got something. I think he's only a young lad, but again, like some of the players that played last night, we've got to be careful with the development. Clearly, Clough's impressed by him. He's joined in training a fair bit in the short time that he's been there. He's got to go out and get some football and really develop, because I think if Clough likes him and likes the look of him, I think he'll keep him around and he will give him the opportunities.
Yeah, you'd hope so. I think he's definitely come in and set the cat amongst the pigeons, because you look at the youth team players that we were playing last season, and I don't think he's too far off where they are, and he's a fair bit younger than the other lads, i.e. Tyree Sinclair, Jason Law, and co. I think he fit straight in with them lot, to be fair. But yeah, like you said, if Clough's impressed by him, he'll keep him around, because firstly, it's an extra body we can rely on. We know that he can do a solid job. Yes, it's against an under-23s Premier League team, but it's still quality minutes. It's still a win that he was involved with, and just all round, just a solid performance from him. I think just going forward, just keep doing what he's doing. I don't think he's still got a lot of developing to do, but he's not far off of where you'd want him to be at that stage of his career, and looking at knocking on the door of the first team squad. Obviously, he's been on the bench a couple of times. Will Clough rely on him at some point to come off the bench? Probably. Did the same last season with Jason Law and Tyree Sinclair and James Clark. So
yeah.
Why not?
I agree with the comment Richard Dennett made in the comments. He said that Gale ought to be on the bench, and I think he's absolutely right for that. I think there's no point bringing him over to play to train at our club unless you intend to play him at some level. And as we've said before, we don't have that second string competitive league to drop people into, so it's a difficult one. What you don't want is people kicking the heels. I'm slightly concerned about Tyree Sinclair, I have to say. I don't think he performed as well as we'd want him to last night, and it was a perfect opportunity for him. Yeah, he scored a goal. He missed more than a dozen shots, I think, but he's just not made that next step, in my opinion.
Yeah, confidence is a big thing. Like Nathan says, though, I caught it, Nathan, don't worry, that there is the Under-23s Cup, but it's frustrating because the games are once every month, so it's really difficult to get regular competitive football. #bring back the reserves.
I thought the reserves was coming back in some way, shape or form.
Who knows?
Or is it not? Just not.
It hasn't yet, has it?
transpired.
I think it's been a difficult couple of years to do anything radical anyway. I think let's get this season out of the way. And I would imagine EFL might be looking towards getting involved in a structural second stream. I hope so anyway.
It'd be nice.
There was that cup competition. Didn't we win it up? So I'll come second or something a couple of years ago. And it was a great opportunity for players that needed the minutes, especially those that are just coming back from injury. So it's quite disappointing that we've not been able to do that, because you look at players that have come out injured and it's just took them a couple of games to get the sharpness back. Same with those that have been suspended. Stephen Quinn, all bar the Sheffield Wednesday game, was kind of just sat around twiddling his thumbs on match days. There was nothing for him to do because he obviously weren't allowed, and then all he could do was train. He wasn't in the same... Yes, he was still training with the first team squad, and yes, he was still doing... getting involved with the match prep and things like that, but I can't imagine that someone like Stephen Quinn just want to sit on the sidelines constantly he did for those
Maybe
6
think
games.
about that before doing what I did, really, though, to be fair.
Yeah, that is also very true. Right, we must move on. It's time to hear from Mr. Clough, and then we'll discuss an interesting comment that he makes in his interview, and that is whether the next 5 games will be pivotal in our season. Let's hear from the Stags boss, Nigel Clough, speaking to I Follow Stags.
Pleased with the draw in some ways. It's a good one for us location wise. Pleased for the supporters that in the next few weeks we're going to Sutton, we're going to Crawley, we're going to Stevenage on Saturday. Pleased that it's local. Would love it to be even more local and be here at the One Call Stadium. I think that's 4 or 5 now consecutive draws away from home in the FA Cup. So we're due a home one. That was the only thing. Would have loved to have been at home against them. As I said to the players downstairs, when you do it properly. And you work hard and you get it and you pass and you go forward. It's much more enjoyable football, and I think we've done that tonight. I think the last 5 performances now, I think we started against Port Vale and we hit our little rock bottom against Northampton away. I think since that point, I think the 5 performances could have easily led to 5 wins. Against Port Vale, if we'd have scored the penalty before half time or been awarded the blatant one in the second half, I think we'd have won. Up at Exeter with 25-30 minutes to go or whatever, 1-0, could have got something there, and then we've had the last 3 victories. So I hope so, but I think it will be getting ahead of ourselves. We had a bad 2 months, 6 weeks, 2 months, whatever it was, and I hope we're coming out of it. I think the next sort of 4 or 5 games we've got will define our season. I think going to Stevenage, Scunthorpe, Sutton and Crawley, and then Doncaster in the FA Cup. I think those 5 games will go a long way to deciding which direction we're going in. I just feel they're 5 very important games. We've got 12 league points at stake and a place in the 3rd round of the FA Cup. It's that time of the season before you go into the busy Christmas period where you always got points at stake. We can put ourselves towards halfway up the league if we can have a good run in the next few games.
Stags boss Nigel Clough speaking to iFollow. Stags, you can view more of that by heading to mansfieldtown.net/iFollow. Big statement made by Clough in there as well, talking about the next 4 to 5 games. Of course, the next game is a trip to Stevenage on Saturday afternoon. If you want to travel with the SSA, they've added a second coach. £15 for a blue member, for an amber member, £20 for a blue member, 25 for a non-member. That's £15 for an amber member, 20 for a blue, and 25 for a non-member. To book, call 07967 689 597. That's 07967 689 597. Departure time from the One Call Stadium is 10 a.m. Let's move back to what Nigel Clough was speaking about there, Cam. And that is that he said that the next 4 or 5 games will define our season. I actually think he's got a very, very big point when you look at the league positions and the form that the teams we are playing are in.
Yeah, I agree slightly with the whole FA Cup thing, wanted to be at home, but that's a few games away, and obviously we've got to focus on these first. But he is right, these 5 games will define our season, and the last thing you want to be doing is going into the 4 games over the Christmas period with no momentum and no form. We saw how important it was last season, turning our season around, winning these games, drawing those that we probably should have won, i.e. Southend last season. But it's just all about keeping that momentum, and obviously Stevenage, they're mid-table, so it's a winnable game. But I think all these games are winnable. I don't think there's any game that we've got coming up that's going to be. They're all going to be challenging in a different way, as is every game. But they're definitely winnable. So I think Clough's going in with the right mindset. Obviously, just keeping that momentum going. And first and foremost, let's see how we can turn the momentum from last Saturday into this Saturday. Keep that winning mentality and keeping the bounce amongst the players and the fans, because other than the odd few games this season, it's been like a library at the One Call, as well as the away games, because it's just felt flat. The performance hasn't been there. The fans haven't got behind it. Now that the performance are getting there, the fans are starting to believe again and starting to have a bit more confidence. And you could see that, firstly, the team repaid that on last Saturday against Tranmere, and then this Saturday against Sunderland. So let's
Slightly
just go
have
down.
to disagree there, though. I think the atmosphere all season has been pretty good, to be fair. In all fairness to the fans, even through that rough patch, to be honest, There was one bad game atmosphere-wise, and that was Northampton. There's no surprise with how that one panned out. But I think apart from that, it's actually been pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing I want to point, Nath, is what he says, because we had
by 10. Sorry.
we had Clough talking about the next 4 or 5 games, 3 wins from 3 in 3 different competitions. The next 3 or 4 games, 21st in Stevenage, 24th rock bottom in Scunthorpe. Sutton doing well, but have stuttered of late in 9th. Crawley in 18th. You've got to fancy your chances in that one.
Yeah, it's 3 of those really. You've got to be looking at taking 3 points. 3 points in each, haven't you? And I think that's why it's so defining, because if you slip up against those teams, it's kind of going to hurt you even this early on in the season, because it gives Stevenage the opportunity to pull away. It gives Scunthorpe the opportunity to, well, I think at this point they could have leapfrogged us, couldn't they, or close to. So they really don't want to be losing those. So I think by Clough making that statement, you could say it's putting a bit of pressure on them. I don't think it is. I think it's more maybe focusing them, thinking, right, let's knuckle down now in this next month in particular. Let's build on what we've been able to do so far. Take confidence out of what we've done in the last few games, but let's really focus and really take these games by the scruff of the neck and get 3 points for each of them, because it's an opportunity, isn't it, to find our way back at that table where I think we should be.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to say bye to Cam in a second because Daddy Duties are back. Evelyn, I know you can process Uncle Crave's voice, so I'm begging you to do a really, really big, massive, stinky number 2 and be sick all over your dad. And there you go. She's even waving. She's acknowledging Uncle Craig's voice, and she's saying, "Don't worry about it. I've absolutely got you. I've got you sorted." Before you go though, Cam, podcast predictions time. Let us know what your prediction is for Saturday's game away at Stevenage.
I'm going to go with 3-1 win.
Go for your goal scorers.
Danny Johnson will get on the score sheet, I think. I think Johnson will score twice.
Okay, so I'm putting Johnson for 2, yeah.
And I think Stephen Quinn.
Okay, Stephen Quinn's on there. What's Evelyn saying? Is she going for the same?
1-0. I'm trying to see how many fingers she was holding up.
She's going for 1-0. Please punch you. Are you thinking the same as me, Clive? Please punch him in the face.
I'm thinking, have I got to find a baby from somewhere?
Oh yeah, Nathan could well go and get his. Don't start getting broody, not at your age. Jesus Christ. Right, Cameron and the star of the podcast, Evelyn, we will let you go and enjoy Daddy Duties. Please, if there is a God in this world, have let her soiled her nappy and let Cam have to deal with it and poo in his face. Look after yourself, Cam. Wave bye-bye. Wave bye-bye. Say bye.
See you, Cam.
He's gone. There we go. We've got rid of him. There we go. Right. There we go. We're back up and running. There we go. Right. Let's move. Go back to what we were saying, Clive, about form and things like that, and other bits and bobs. Is Nigel Clough right with what he says? The next 5 games are going to be season defying, because if we get a good run and then a good result at the end of it against Doncaster and round 3 awaits, who knows how our season could turn. Big gate money if we get a big tie. The pendulum could swing. Yeah,
he described them as pivotal. I think it's probably overstating it, but they're all winnable. I'd be very surprised if we didn't get a handful of points in this month. I mean, Stevenage away, Scunthorpe home, Sutton and Crawley both away. They're all ones on present form, we shouldn't fear. We should be able to take points off them. Doncaster away, anything can happen. It'll be a great day out. That's the main thing there. I'm happy with it being an away fixture, quite honestly, because I enjoy the whole thing about going away to cup games, and especially one that's only 40 minutes up the road.
Yeah, absolutely.
The other thing to think about as well is, and it's a slightly worrying thing, and I don't want to be over negative, but the weather forecast for the end of this month is it's going to be we're going to go into the ice age apparently, and then we'll lose games to it. And do you remember what happened last year? Yeah. We lost games. We come back and our form had gone. and we went from being unbeatable to be,
We'll be good this
well,
year.
we were very poor. Let's put it that way.
The pitch is in much better nick this year, to be fair.
Well, it is, and that's the other thing I was going to say, Nathan, is that I think Mez will be pleased to see so many away games this month because it gives the pitch even more time to be at its best. So I think we if we're sat here at the end of November and still worried about relegation, I'll be very surprised.
Yeah, me too. I think it'll be certainly an interesting one. Nath, what do you make of the cup draw? Doncaster away, always nice to get a close team. The John Radford derby, of course.
Yeah, I put it in the group chat, didn't I? The night before, I said it suddenly occurred to me that obviously they beat Scunthorpe. I thought, I won't mind Donny away. Personally, it's a ground that I haven't done yet because I missed the last time we played them, so it's a new ground for me as Sunderland was. And I just thought I enjoyed Sunderland so much, the atmosphere wise, the singing at that game was so good. I just thought what game would sort of copy that a little bit, and I thought Doncaster. So for that to actually come out in the draw, I prefer it with it being so close. I'd rather that than it being at home. So contrary to what Clough said, kind of understand why he would prefer it, but for me, great result, great draw, and I think it's one where we could get a result. We don't want to count our chickens, but again, they're a team at the moment that aren't in the best of form. Whether they will be by then, we don't know. But it's one that you look at it and you think it's not a million miles out of reach. Which, to be fair, a lot of us probably would have thought Sunderland would have been. So you just never know, and that's
it's a double wonk, isn't it? On when we play Doncaster, because both teams are sponsored by Onecool on the shirt sponsorships.
Are they still sponsored by them?
I'm not.
I don't think they were anymore.
You might be right, but they certainly were last time I looked. But.
Yeah, maybe. But it'll be a good game for at least for the fans anyway. And I say you talk about cup runs can sometimes kickstart your league or give you something going into the league as well. And I think hopefully Sunderland's done that for us now, and if we can continue that, then obviously all the better. Is he alive?
Craig's lost all his voice. We'll have a chat between ourselves.
I was waiting for it. He's just gone.
I mean, the two the next three away games: Stevenage, Sutton, and Crawley.
Am I back? Am I there? Am I in?
Just shut up. Just shut up. We're talking.
No. Go on then. Carry on.
I was going to say
hurry it up though. So I've got a few minutes.
There'll be a decent Stags following down to Stevenage. I think Sutton on the Tuesday night will be a bit thin on the ground, and then Crawley, it's a bit of a journey, isn't it? So when we do get back to the Doncaster away game, I think there will be several thousand Stags fans there. It'll be a great atmosphere.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, certainly so. Well, let's hope that we do go on and get a good result in the next couple of games. Let's first finish off tonight's podcast by doing podcast predictions. We mentioned it earlier on. And new feature time. We've got another competition for you to win a Mansfield Matters mug. We're adding in the Golden Goal feature. Okay, so usual podcast predictions as per. All you need to do is add in a golden goal, a time when you think the first goal will be scored for either team. It's all self-explanatory on the thing. Nathan and Clive don't need to worry about it because it's just you guys at home, and the person who gets it on the nail will win a mug. If you get close to it within a 5-minute window, we'll put your name into a draw for the end of the month. So there's a new feature on there for you to take part in. The link is in the description as always. Time for podcast predictions. Clive, I'm going to come to you first. What are you going to go with for this coming week?
Reid won't score because we're going to win 2-0, and I'm going to go Oates Johnson.
Rhys Oates and Danny Johnson. Nath, what about you? What are you going to go with?
Reid will score, although it doesn't matter for the podcast prediction game. But I'm going to Cam stole my score, but I'm going to go 3-1 win.
Okay, and you're going to go for?
The goal scorers being Danny Johnson, Rhys Oates.
Greasy Oates.
Oh, screw it. I'm going to go for Ollie Clark.
So you've been saying you don't want him to play, and yet you've just put him to score.
Well, because I know he will play, and I know he'll
is
hear my comments about the cliff, and he'll bounce back and smash one in the top corner, aiming for my face. So there we go.
Typical Nathan behaviour. Nath, I've got one quick question for you, and it is: have you given the mug to your brother yet, who won the podcast prediction league?
You haven't given me one yet
for the last month.
Well, no, because I don't have one, do I?
I thought you given him yours. Oh, well, we'll get you one sorted. We'll get you one sorted. Dear, oh dear.
Just make it last longer. It's quite funny.
Absolutely shocking. It's not quite funny. It's in some ways poor from us, because we've not given mugs out. So maybe we'll give Nathan a red card. Who knows? But we will get you one sorted. I'm literally knocking everything over. My internet is going all over the place now. Just change back to my normal camera, my normal computer, and now it's gone.
Craig, have you smeared your screen with Vaseline?
I have, yeah, because that's why I changed cameras, and I switched back. It had gone back to green, and then
have you thought about paying your broadband bill?
Pay it. It's just not very good. Right. Anyway, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'm going to stick with it because we've nearly done, because I've got to be somewhere in like 2 minutes. So I'll give you my prediction. I think we are going to. I don't think we'll keep a clean sheet. I'm going to go for a 2-1 win. And I'm going to go with goal scorers of Rhys Oates, and I'm going to, do you know what? I'm going to back him from a corner. I think I'm going to put JJOT, John Joe O'Toole is going to score from a corner, because I think he's going to start at centre half. I think he will stick with O'Toole and Hawkins as the back two. So there you go. That is, though, almost all we've got time for. Boys, thank you very much, as always, for getting involved. Final thoughts as we look ahead to the last month. How many points are you expecting from the next 4 games, Nath, in Sky Bet League 2?
I would like to see us take 10. I think that's achievable, realistic. The biggest challenge will be Sutton away on a Tuesday night, but 10 I think is achievable.
Clive, what about you? What are you going to go for?
2 wins, a draw, and a loss.
2 wins, a draw, and a loss. There you go. The thoughts of Clive Parkin, the thoughts also of Nathan Edge. Thank you very much for both of you for getting involved tonight. We will see you again on the Sunday sermon. But as I said, that is all we've got time for tonight. Nigel Clough said the next 5 games will determine our season. Well, let's see how things pan out over those next 5 games, starting with a trip to Stevenage on Saturday afternoon, 21st in Sky Bet League 2. Can Mansfield Town make 4 wins from 4? Join us on the Sunday sermon for further reactions to find out. I've been Craig Bruce. Joining me tonight, Cam Felton, Nathan Edge and Clive Parkin. Thank you for commenting, thank you for sharing, thank you very much for getting involved. Don't forget to donate if you can to the 2 runners. This is the show for the fans by the fans. Why? Because Mansfield always matters, and it's much better when we're winning games of football. It's much more enjoyable that way. See you on Sunday for the Sunday sermon. Good night.